Caitlin Clark walked onto a golf course and changed the conversation around women's sports overnight. Her appearance at the Annika Prom wasn't just a casual crossover. It was a masterclass in relevance, charisma, and influence. As the LPGA embraced her with open arms, the event shattered viewership records and ignited a media frenzy, proving just how powerful cross-sport visibility can be when done right. But instead of celebrating the moment, Aya Wilson responded with thinly veiled jabs and cryptic discontent, exposing not just personal insecurity, but a league-wide failure to evolve. The contrast between celebration and sulking couldn't be clearer, and it highlights exactly why some leagues grow and others stall. The LPGA didn't just host Clark. They recognized her as a cultural bridge and capitalized on the opportunity to elevate their sport. In contrast, the WNBA let ego and silence drown out what could have been a moment of shared spotlight. While Wilson stewed online, the LPGA expanded its fan base and reaped the benefits of bold, collaborative leadership. This wasn't about golf or basketball. It was about knowing how to win off the court. And Clark did that with poise, while the WNBA watched the moment pass them by. Caitlin Clark showed up to the Annika Prom, swung a golf club, smiled for the cameras, and broke the internet. The LPGA's decision to invite Clark wasn't just a headline. It was a game changer. She's not a golfer. She's not even affiliated with the LPGA. But her presence alone drew record viewership, blew up on social media, and had fans tuning into golf like they never had before. That's how powerful Caitlin Clark's name is right now. She didn't need to be the best golfer on the course. She didn't need to dominate a new sport. She just had to show up, and she brought a new audience with her. The LPGA knew exactly what they were doing, and they pulled it off. Meanwhile, over in the WNBA, the reaction was silence, or worse, passive-aggressive shade. And at the center of that silence, Aya Wilson. While the LPGA was busy celebrating Clark's crossover appeal and turning her into a golf ambassador overnight, the WNBA was nowhere to be found. No formal statements. No league-wide support. No amplification of the moment. Just cryptic social media from players like Wilson, who clearly weren't happy about the attention Clark was getting. And let's be real, Aya Wilson knows how to post in code. She didn't tag names. She didn't drop quotes. But the jealousy was loud. The resentment came through. It's not the first time Wilson has responded this way. But this one hit different, because the success Clark found with the LPGA wasn't even on the basketball court. It wasn't about stats or MVPs or minutes played. It was about influence, about crossover appeal, about who can draw a crowd. And Clark did that flawlessly. She walked into a completely different sport and brought more buzz than most professional golfers do in a season. And in doing so, she exposed something deeper. The LPGA knows how to recognize an opportunity. The WNBA clearly does not. The LPGA saw Clark as a rising tide, and they paddled with her. They welcomed her, hyped her, celebrated her. They knew she could pull women's golf into a larger spotlight, and they acted decisively. The WNBA, they froze. Or worse. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. They treat it like a threat, instead of embracing the crossover moment and using it to lift the entire league. Some players acted like Clark had betrayed them, like her appearance at a golf tournament somehow devalued everything they'd worked for. That reaction said everything. Aya Wilson's passive response, paired with the WNBA's silence, highlighted exactly what's been holding the lead back: insecurity. Caitlin Clark's success wasn't some accident. She's earned her place by showing up, performing under pressure, and staying professional. She's never once disrespected her teammates or the league. She hasn't undermined anyone. And yet, every time she gets a win, someone like Wilson treats it like a loss for everyone else. That's the problem. This isn't zero-sum. It never was. Clark getting invited to the LPGA didn't take anything away from Wilson, but Wilson's response tried to frame it that way. Instead of recognizing that Clark's success off the court can bring new fans, new sponsors, and new energy into the WNBA, Wilson chose to sulk in public. And that reaction, it didn't look powerful. It looked Petty. This wasn't about talent. It was about leadership. And Wilson, in that moment, showed exactly why the WNBA keeps missing opportunities. Because too many of its top voices are too focused on their own spotlight and not enough on growing the whole stage. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is out here partnering with Nelly Korda, putting women's sports on every trending page and showing what it looks like to collaborate instead of compete. That partnership didn't just work. It blew up. Viewership skyrocketed. Clips went viral. Casual fans started following golf. It was a win for women's sports across the board. And where was the WNBA during all this? Still stuck in a cycle of jealousy and missed chances. Let's talk numbers. Clark's appearance generated more buzz for golf than most women's basketball games this season. That's not an insult to the WNBA. It's a wake-up call. The energy is there. The audience is willing. But the league has to know how to use it. And when your top players are out here posting cryptic jabs instead of rallying around a moment that could lift everyone, that's not leadership. That's ego. The LPGA showed what smart lead promotion looks like. They didn't hesitate. They didn't flinch. They opened the door wide. And Clark brought new life into the sport. That's what the WNBA could have done. But instead, they froze and let one of their biggest stars get more love from a different sport than she's got from her own league. Aya Wilson had a choice. She could have embraced the moment, supported the crossover, celebrated the fact that a WNBA player was helping elevate another women's league. Instead, she made it about herself. And that's exactly why fans are getting frustrated. This should have been a turning point, a rallying moment, a sign that women's sports can grow together, not just in their own silos. But the WNBA let their insecurity ruin the opportunity. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark kept her head down, smiled, played the game on the green and in the media, and walked away with another win. Because Clark isn't playing for clout. She's not chasing drama. She's building something bigger than herself. A platform, a movement, a new blueprint for what women's sports can look like when athletes support each other instead of trying to compete with the very people they should be partnering with. The LPGA saw that. They amplified it. The WNBA ignored it and let it pass them by. Now the contrast is undeniable. One league is hungry to grow. The other is clinging to old narratives and tired rivalries. One league embraces visibility. The other treats it like a threat. And Caitlin Clark? She's still rising. Because she understands a bigger picture. It's not about being a star. It's about sharing the spotlight and watching it grow for everyone. So if the WNBA wants to catch up, it's time to stop playing defense and start recognizing momentum when it hits them in the face. And Aya Wilson? She needs to decide if she wants to lead or keep reacting from the sidelines every time someone else shines. Let us know what you think. Was Caitlin Clark's golf appearing to win for all women's sports? Or is the WNBA right to feel some type of way? Should Aya Wilson have celebrated the moment? Or was her reaction justified? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tap the like button if you're here for honest breakdowns. Subscribe if you're tired of surface level takes. And share this with someone who still doesn't get how much one athlete can move the culture forward. Because Caitlin Clark's not just playing the game, she's changing it, one appearance at a time. And that's the part the WNBA still doesn't seem to grasp. Caitlin Clark didn't just cross over into golf. She crossed into cultural relevance. And she did it without drama, without PR spin, without stepping on anyone's toes. Just by showing up and being herself. Meanwhile, the league she actually plays and treated her like she committed a betrayal for being embraced by another sport. Let's call it what it is. That energy from the WNBA, it wasn't protective. It wasn't cautious. It was jealous. And Aya Wilson's reaction was embodiment of that. She didn't say Caitlin's name. She didn't need to. The cryptic tone was crystal clear. The side-eye posts, the subtweets, the passive-aggressive commentary. It was all designed to say one thing without saying it directly. Why her and not me? And that question right there, it's why Wilson's reaction hit so wrong. Because it wasn't about the sport or the fans or growth. It was about ego. Aya Wilson has been one of the league's brightest stars for years. Multiple-time MVP. Champion. Face of the Las Vegas Aces dynasty. And yet, The second Caitlin Clark gets a taste of media attention outside basketball, Wilson starts signaling resentment. That's not leadership. That's pettiness, dressed up as principle. And it's not a good look. Not for her and not for the WNBA. Because while Wilson's out here firing off ambiguous posts, Caitlin is literally doing what everyone in women's sports says they want. Drawing attention to game, bringing in new fans, and showing how athletes can elevate each other. Just look at what happened at the Prom. She paired up with Nelly Korda, one of the top golfers in the world. There was no tension, no competition, just mutual respect and shared spotlight. It was an easy win, and the LPGA ran with it. They leaned into the moment, created content, shared clips, showed love. They turned what could have been a one-day headline into a long-term brand boost. They didn't hesitate. They understood that when one woman shines, it reflects on the whole league. But the WNBA? They've made it abundantly clear that Caitlin Clark's rise makes them nervous. That's a problem. Because this idea that Clark's visibility is somehow taking something away from her teammates or her fellow stars. That's not reality. That's projection. Caitlin didn't steal anything. She earned her following. She earned the media attention. And more importantly, she earned respect by not letting the noise pull her into a narrative war. She's shown restraint, class, focus. Meanwhile, Wilson's not just reacting. She's reinforcing a narrative that holds the lead back. A narrative that says success is a competition. That someone else's rise is your personal loss. But here's the thing, that mindset, it hurts everyone. Because it sends a message that there's only room for one star at a time. That the spotlight can't be shared. That collaboration is a threat. And if that's the energy coming from your top players, then guess what? New fans don't stay. Brands don't invest. Media outlets lose interest. Because if you're not celebrating your league's breakout talent, why would anyone else? And that's what the LPGA got so right. They didn't just tolerate Caitlin's appearance. They maximized it. They saw what she brought to the table and made space for it. No jealousy, no side eyes, just smart promotion. The result? Viral moments, a fresh audience, a cultural bridge between sports, all from a basketball player hitting the fairway for a weekend. The contrast is stunning. The LPGA saw value. The WNBA saw threat. And Aya Wilson, who should be showing younger players how to lead through success, is instead modeling how to fold under pressure, not on the court, but in the moment, because the leadership Caitlin's showing isn't just about performance. It's about poise. She could have responded to the passive jabs. She could have defended herself publicly, but she didn't. She let her performance and presence speak for itself. Again, and that silence, it said more than any tweet could. It said, I'm not here for drama. I'm here to grow the game. And let's be honest, that's what every league needs right now. Because women's sports are on the brink of something massive. Visibility is rising. Sponsorship is climbing. Viewership is up. And players like Caitlin Clark are pushing that momentum across boundaries, bringing new fans into golf, basketball, and beyond. But if the WNBA keeps sabotaging its own stars with internal rivalries and unspoken resentment, it's going to miss out on the biggest growth opportunity it's ever had. And fans see it. You go online and it's obvious. People aren't just watching what Caitlin does. They're watching how the lead treats her. And right now, that treatment isn't inspiring confidence. It's showing hesitation, jealousy, and fragility. That's not how you build a league. That's how you stall one. The LPGA made their move. They welcomed the moment and turned it into momentum. The WNBA, they froze. Again. And if they don't learn from this, Caitlin Clark won't be the only one walking across industries. She'll be the first of many to realize that her full potential lies outside the WNBA's limited vision. Because let's be real, if golf of all sports can see Clark's value and embrace it without drama, why can't the league she actually plays for? If the WNBA wants to keep its stars, it needs to start acting like it deserves them. That means putting ego aside, supporting the breakout talent, embracing change. And players like Aya Wilson, they need to lead by lifting, not undermining. This could have been a unifying moment. It could have been the start of something bigger than basketball. Instead, it turned into another example of what happens when a league lets personal pride outweigh collective progress. The WNBA isn't just missing opportunities, it's actively dodging them. And Caitlin Clark's invite to the LPGA Prom was a bright, flashing billboard reminding everyone just how slow and insecure the league can be when the spotlight shifts to someone they didn't handpick. Caitlin Clark shows up to a golf event, not as a pro, not even as a casual player with a long history in the sport, just as herself. That's all it took. And in return, the LPGA got one of its most talked about events of the year. Viral clips, national headlines, record engagement. It wasn't a golf story. It was a moment in women's sports. You would think her home league, the one that claims to support women visibility and crossover potential, would have capitalized immediately. Public support, strategic promotion, maybe even a WNBA x LPGA highlight reel. But they did the opposite. They sat back, let the moment pass. Worse, they let players like Aya Wilson dominate the response with cryptic, passive-aggressive comments that did nothing but highlight the jealousy. And it was jealousy. Let's not dance around it. Aya Wilson has accomplished everything on the court. MVPs, championships, defensive accolades. She's earned her place in history. But what she hasn't earned, or more accurately, hasn't attracted, is the kind of organic, widespread media buzz that Caitlin Clark generates just by existing. And instead of recognizing that as a shift in the media landscape, one where influence is more than just stats, Wilson doubled down on the ego. The response wasn't collaborative. It wasn't proud. It was cold. She treated Clark's success like a personal insult, not a league-wide opportunity. And if that sounds harsh, it's because it should. Because Wilson didn't just undercut Clark. She undercut the WNBA's growth by making it clear she's not willing to share the stage. This isn't the first time she's hinted at discomfort with Clark's rise. And every time it happens, she does it in that same non-committal way. No names, no direct quotes, just a vibe, a tension, a statement without a statement. But we all get the message. Why is she getting that attention and not me? And that attitude is everything wrong with how some corners of the WNBA are handling change. Instead of elevating each other, they gatekeep the spotlight. It's a dangerous mindset, because Caitlin Clark isn't taking anything away from Wilson or any of the vets. She's bringing new fans, new eyes, and new dollars. She's expanding the platform. She's walking into other sports, other media spaces, and dragging the WNBA brand with her. And the league's silence? The players' resentment? It sends one message. We don't know how to handle success unless it comes from someone we already crowned. Contrast that with the LPGA. They saw an opportunity and grabbed it. They didn't ask whether Clark deserved it. They didn't worry about offending other golfers. They looked at the numbers, looked at the buzz, and said, yes, more of that. And guess what? It worked. That event became the talking point of the week. Not because of golf, but because of how golf welcomed Clark. It wasn't a moment of competition. It was a moment of collaboration. Clark and Nelly Korda side by side, laughing, swinging, supporting each other, pulling in fans who may never have watched a women's golf event before. And more importantly, it didn't look forced. It looked effortless. It looked modern. Meanwhile, back in the WNBA, we're watching the same tire pattern. Internal beef, silent leadership, passive aggression dressed as protecting the league. Players who should be unified are acting like visibility is a limited resource. But here's the reality. The spotlight expands when you stop trying to hoard it. Caitlin Clark is not the problem. She's the proof that when you support your stars instead of resenting them, everyone wins. Everyone grows. Aya Wilson had the chance to set the tone, to stand beside Clark publicly and say, this is good for all of us. She could have used her platform, her earned credibility, to unify the fan base and send a message that the WNBA is bigger than one personality. Instead, she chose to be cryptic. She chose side eyes over solidarity. And that choice made her look small. Not because she isn't great, she is, but because she made it clear she doesn't see Clark's success as a win for anyone but Clark. That's the difference. And let's be clear, fans notice. The audience may not be sitting in media meetings or reading between every tweet, but people feel energy. And the energy from Wilson? It wasn't leadership. It was ego. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, who had every reason to clap back, defend herself, or get pulled into the mess, said nothing. She let the moment breathe, let her performance and her presence speak louder than any post could. And in doing so, she widened the gap between being a player and being a brand. The kind of brand that transcends sport. That gets calls from sponsors, leagues, and networks. Not because she demands attention, but because she commands it. The WNBA's reluctance to go all in on Caitlin Clark says more about their internal dysfunction than it does about her. It says they don't know how to ride momentum unless they control every step of it. But in the modern media landscape, control isn't power, flexibility is. And the LPGA proved it. They took a chance, stepped out of their bubble, and embraced the crossover moment. Now they're reaping the rewards. Headlines, growth, relevance. That's what happens when you support your stars without worrying about whose feelings get bruised. Meanwhile, the WNBA is stuck in a high school popularity contest. They want to control who gets crowned. And when someone like Caitlin Clark skips the line, not because she demanded it, but because the fans chose her, they panic. But if you want to grow a league, you have to be willing to let go of gatekeeping. You have to understand that there's room for more than one voice, more than one kind of leadership. And Aya Wilson, for all her on-court dominance, keeps proving she doesn't understand that. She wants to be the face of the league, but refuses to accept that true leaders make space for others. That spotlight isn't diminished when shared. It's magnified. Caitlin Clark shared it with golf, and now both sports are better for it. Wilson chose not to share it all. Let us know what you think. Is Caitlin Clark being unfairly treated by her own league? Did Aya Wilson miss an opportunity to lead with grace? Should the WNBA take a page from the LPGA's playbook? Comment below. Hit like if you're tired of the petty drama holding women's sports back. Subscribe if you want to see athletes celebrated for lifting others up, not tearing them down. And share this with someone who still thinks playing the game is enough in 2025. Because Caitlin Clark is changing the game, whether the WNBA is ready or not.